You know, can you hear me? Yes, you can. Buon pomeriggio. I think it's pomeriggio now, yeah?
Pomeriggio.
Yeah,
yes.
oh, good.
A conversation with Julie Andrews is very daunting because she's so many things. She's an actress, she's a singer, she's a writer, she's an activist. So I decided to narrow this around the same time frame of her new wonderful book, which is called Homework. And it's co-written with her daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton, who's sitting right there.
In the middle there.
And
excuse me, with my granddaughter, my grandson, and my son-in-law. And many friends, yeah.
And the book, its frame, it goes from, it's at Hollywood years. So it covers from Mary Poppins to the, to that's life. So I think we're going to have to start with Poppins and the day that Walt Disney walked into your dressing room. She was already very well known on Broadway. She had done My Fair Lady. And she was on Camelot. And Walt Disney walked into her dressing room, and what happened?
Well, I thought he was coming to say he enjoyed the show or something, but he said, would I be interested in coming to Hollywood to hear the songs and see what he was doing for a new film, Mary Poppins? And I said, oh, Mr. Disney, I would love to, but I'm pregnant. I'm 3 months pregnant. And he said, that's okay, we'll wait. And so I said, well, I didn't know that preparing a film takes so long. And he turned to my then husband and said, and what do you do, young man? And I said, he said, I am a designer of theater and film and much else, books and illustrations. And he said, when you come to Hollywood, you bring your portfolio with you. And the minute he saw my husband's designs, not Blake Edwards, but the first husband, he said, you will do all the designs for the movie, the costumes, and most of the sets. And Tony Walton, my husband, he received an Oscar nomination. First, Disney had an extraordinary sense of talent, and he was very, very generous and kind. So it was wonderful, wonderful.
Mary Poppins was a very, very advanced film for its time.
For its time, yes.
It was a mix of animation and real life.
Action,
and yeah, can you talk a little bit about all those challenges?
Yeah, because in those days, they didn't have all the extra bells and whistles that they have now on for film and for animation and live action mix. So the amazing thing today is that even now, you do not see a single crack in Mary Poppins. You cannot see the flying wires. You cannot see how the tricks are done. And in those days, that was amazing because it was the first, I think, almost the first.
And you were like flying with...
Oh, yes. Agony. I had to wear a harness through my clothes, and it was very painful. And they saved all my very difficult flying for the end of the movie in case I had an accident, which didn't matter after that. And so one day when I was hanging way up high, waiting, I felt my wire go maybe 1 foot drop. And I got very nervous because it was the end of the film. And I said, excuse me, could you let me down very gently? I think I may be going to fall. Right, let her down very easy. Wires go up here all the way to the back to the man controlling the wires. And let her down easy, Joe, gently, gently. And I dropped like a ton of bricks to the ground. And I think I said a few words that Mr. Disney had not heard very often. But I was fine, thank God, because there was a balancing equipment as well.
Mary Poppins is still, to this day, one of your most iconic characters, and I'm wondering, how did you find her body language, her walk, her...
A little bit, two things. First of all, Tony Walton's costume designs. He said to me, I think Mary Poppins has a little secret life somewhere. And if you look inside the lining of her jackets or the petticoats of her skirts, there are many colors and quite pretty. Everything outside is very formal, but everything inside is a little bit bright and wicked. And even the daisy in her hat is just a little bit sparkling. And it gave me the idea that she did have a secret life altogether, that she had another personality which was a little more playful and fun. And the second thing is crazy, Julia. When I was doing My Fair Lady, I noticed that I turned my feet in to begin with when I was just the Cockney girl, but for Mary Poppins, I suddenly decided to turn my feet outwards. I guess I act with my feet all the way up to my head, but that helped a lot, just to be very, very, very prim and proper.
Immediately after Mary Poppins, you were sought after by Robert Wise and also by Arthur Hiller.
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit about it's counterintuitive, your second film, the Americanization of Emily. It's a black and white. It's a anti-war comedy. Anti-war comedy. It was set during the Second World War, but it's kind of an anti-Vietnam film, and
yes.
Written by Paddy Chayefsky.
Written brilliantly by Paddy Chayefsky, and that was the thrill, was to be asked to make this movie. And also, I knew that I was going to do, or had been asked to do, The Sound of Music. And I thought that doing the Americanization of Emily in the middle would not be so typecasting, and that I could really try something different. And I was very happy with that second movie to be asked to do it. It was a wonderful screenplay, and I met my friend James Garner for the first time, and we made 3 projects together and were great friends.
And one thing that I was surprised is to hear that, because The Sound of Music is one of your most beloved film, and to hear that at the beginning you were hesitant because having seen the Broadway production,
yes.
You thought it was too sentimental.
Little saccharine, little... the danger was that it could be over-the-top saccharine. And I mean, you have mountains and nuns and children and wonderful, wonderful things, but all together, I mean, and 7 children. So I decided it would, and the director, Robert Wise, also felt the same way, that maybe we should try to be as astringent as we could with such a subject. And I think it made it still was a very sweet and loving, sentimental film, but we saved a lot of it from being too saccharine, I think.
And it wasn't Christopher Plummer an instrument of keeping it from being...
Yes, he was our glue that held the whole film together. Robert Wise was masterful, but Christopher was so good as the captain, and so he was so astringent. It was lovely.
Do you have favorite scenes of the film?
Scenes?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. So many. Many memories of the cold and the mountains and waiting. So much rain. Nobody told the producers that Salzburg has Europe's 7th highest annual rainfall, and every day rain. So we would sit and wait and be cold, and then maybe a little bit of sun, and we would rush out and get the shot. But so beautiful. The countryside was lovely. Well, I have so many memories, Julia. Can you think of one you'd like me to talk about?
Yes, I very much like the one about the shooting the opening scene.
Yes.
The last day, and
yes.
the helicopters. I really like that one.
Okay, I think most people know this story, but I'd be happy to tell it again. The opening of the film, we shot on the very last day. Just me, everybody else had gone back to Hollywood, except for the crew. And so I began this end of the big field, and a big helicopter with the cameraman hanging out of the side, coming up over the trees and coming towards me as I begin to walk. And it was an extraordinary thing to see this helicopter so low, a little bit like a crab or a giant grasshopper coming toward me. And then all I had to do was reach my mark, turn, and begin to sing. And then I had to run back to this side, and the helicopter went back to this side. We did it maybe 6, 7, 8 times to get it exactly right, to hit the marks, to be in focus. But every time I make my turn, the helicopter, when I was finished, the helicopter would go up and go around me, and the downdraft from the jet engine was so strong that I fell into the grass. And this happened about 3 or 4 times, and I thought, can't he see that I am eating earth and dust and hay? And so I asked him, please, could you make a wider turnaround? I didn't get anything except, great, let's do one more. So I just kept, at the end of the day, I was so happy to have a shower and to get home.
This was pretty much when you received your Oscar for Poppins.
Yes.
And there is something that I thought it was always, from the little I know her, very telling of Julie's spirit and irreverence, and it's your thank you speech at the Oscar.
I think it was the Golden Globes.
It was the Golden Globe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because that comes before the Oscar, and I had hoped, but I understood completely when I did not get asked to do My Fair Lady for the movie for Warner Brothers. And they needed a big star. I was nobody in those days. So they passed and went to my friend Audrey Hepburn, whom I was great friends with. But it's not difficult to get over the disappointment, because Mr. Disney comes along and says, would you like to do Mary Poppins? And so, yes, thank you. So when I received the Golden Globe for Mary Poppins, I got up and I said I would like to thank, first of all, somebody very important, Mr. Jack Warner, who made this award for Mary Poppins possible. So thank you so much.
I'm going to open it to the audience soon, but I wanna move on to one of the great collaborations in your career, and is the one.
I wonder what that could be. Yeah.
And is the one with your husband Blake Edwards.
Yes.
You made 7 films together.
7 or 8, 7, I think.
7,
yeah.
And it's amazing because it feels like a creative partnership. And if you want to give us a little bit of an idea how you two were collaborating. I mean, all these films he wrote for you, the roles he wrote for you, and
yeah, it's hard to explain. It was, I think, he understood me very well, and I think he saw that I wasn't just a goody two-shoes, if you know what that word is. I wasn't just all prim and proper like Mary Poppins. There may be some comedy there may be something else as well. And he saw that and developed it for when we worked together. But also, I understood him also very well over the years. We were married 41 years and we knew each other 44 years. So there was a lot of time to get to know how we worked. He was funny, irreverent, full of joy. People will tell you, people that worked with him, that people begged to be on his set, on his films, because they were always such fun.
I think, as I see it, Hollywood was going through a transition, and, the big musical were sort of fading.
Well, beginning to fade.
It was
yeah.
beginning to
By the time I did Star, low-budget pictures like Easy Rider, those kind of movies were coming into favor. So big-budget films, people were a little bit angry and felt it was a waste. Excuse me, look at the big-budget films now. But in those days, they said, this is too much, this is too much. So all the great musicals went a little bit down, and all the independent films came up, which is fine. And now the balance is good again.
And I think Blake and your work together was very much a force of change and with the times. Don't
yeah, but also very innovative, because his films like 10 and Victor Victoria, for instance, were all with a fresh take, with a new idea. To write in 10 about a kind of middle-aged male crisis for guys, it was not the first time, but I think it was a very important film for that story.
Of course,
yeah, and
course.
funny. I mean, Dudley Moore was so adorable in 10. And then S.O.B. was an especially interesting movie because it really was Blake's, would you call it revenge?
A little bit.
A little bit revenge for...
Okay, getting back at.
Getting back at Hollywood, because in the early days with Blake, he did not have the final cut. And quite often, the heads of the studio would say, no, we take this out, we take that out. And they would take what Blake felt was the most important pieces and destroy his movies. So he wrote S.O.B. as a gotcha,
And you wrote especially your part for...
Well, I understood. He really wrote a satire on my image. Sally Miles, called Smiles, in the movie was such a good lady and known for playing Peter Pan in her youth. And so eventually her husband in the movie makes a big flop, and he decides to remake this film and make it into a pornographic movie for his wife, his star. And it's really very witty, very funny, very satirical, yeah.
And this brings us to the movie we screened yesterday, which is one of our most beautiful, Victoria.
Yeah.
Is it true that you were worried at the beginning that the audience would not believe you?
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I said to my husband, when in Victor Victoria I play a woman who plays a man who pretends to be a woman. And that is like patting your head and rubbing your stomach. I didn't know which one I was. Who was I think? Was I today the woman or was I today the man? Let me think. So I was very worried that the audience, I said to my husband, they will never believe, I don't think, based on my image, that I could be a man. They couldn't. And he said, darling, don't worry. I make the audience in the movie believe you are a man. Therefore, the audience watching the movie will go along with that. And they did. And he was very wise that way.
How did you, but you did, I was watching the movie a couple of weeks ago to prepare for this, and you really, the body language is amazing. You change when you're her, when you're,
Well, I didn't know what to do at first, and so I studied, which I was very happy about. I studied men a great deal. And what is the difference? What do they do? How do they sit? Ladies use their hands a lot and their expressions a lot. Men sit with their legs wide or their hands in their pockets or something like that, or keep mostly more still. So I thought, well, that's one thing I can do. And then I dropped my voice a lot. I mean, from being normal, I would go way down here. And then it was kind of interesting, but always walking on a tightrope for me. yeah.
And I think one of the defining decision on the set of that film was to, instead of doing on location, to go and shoot on backstage.
Yeah,
and why was that so important, do you think?
The film was set in roughly, I think, 1934, something like that. And Blake wanted to shoot in Paris. It was all taking place in Paris. But there was no place outside that we could shoot that did not have a television aerial or some kind of modern device. And Blake said, I don't think I can find anywhere in Paris that looks as old as 1934. And he heard that Pinewood Studios had 2 giant sound stages back to back. They opened the doors, and it was built originally for the James Bond movies. But Blake managed to get these 2 sound stages, and the entire film, all of the film, was shot inside. And it gave the film unconsciously an intimacy that I don't think we would have gotten outside. And also, our director of photography, who was a wonderful gentleman, he said, we are filming, if we need to look like we are in winter in the snow, and this can be very cold, very blue on camera. So he said, I'm going to follow the postcards of Utrillo and put warm light on the snow, like neon lights or bar signs or traffic light, whatever, onto the snow to make it look like a warmer place. And it worked. You don't see it, it's subtle, but unconsciously, I think it makes all the difference to that movie, because being intimate and warm, it just gave the film miraculously what it needed. And I think my husband knew ahead of time that's what he'd get.
One of the things, as you can see, you can hear, one of the things that's extremely fascinating in talking with Julie is her passion for cinema, but also the way it's made, not just in front of the camera. Is that something you enjoy, the process?
I took a long time to learn about it, and in my new book, which is coming out in October, in the middle of October, I describe at the beginning what it is like to learn about film and how you do it and how you make the magic and and then after that, I don't need to explain again, but I thought it would be good to explain to the audiences that don't know what it is like to begin to make a film for the first time. And also, the other thing that I write about is I was very lucky to be successful, and that success was like an assault. When it exploded, I made 3 films before even one was released. So I was having a very happy time, making movies and playing and having a good time. And then suddenly all of them were released to the public. And then it was, for a while, it could, if you did not have some kind of, and I didn't really, I wasn't so rooted, but I hope I had some common sense, but it could knock you off your feet, that assault of press and adulation and all of that.
And before I open it, I promise I will. I want to talk about That's Life. The last film that Julie concludes the book, and also is the last film she did with Blake Edwards, is called That's Life. And it's
not the last time we worked, but the last film.
The last film you did, yeah. And it's practically a beautiful home movie. It was self-produced. It was shot in their home. Emma's in it. Their family's in it. Emma's in it. Has a big role in it. And Jack Lemmon plays a character that is very much Blake Edwards. And
Jack Lemmon was adorable. And Blake, to watch my husband telling Jack Lemmon how to be Blake Edwards I thought, all along, what you're like. How dare you be that smart? And it was a great pleasure. My daughter sitting here is my co-author on my book, but she's also a wonderful actress and writer, and he gave us both the pleasure of working together in that movie, didn't he, darling? Yeah.
Okay, now it's your turn. And there.
Ooh, where?
Up there.
Yes.
Asu. we're going to have microphone runners.
It's coming, it's coming. And also, That's Life was very biographical.
Yeah.
Very, yeah. Yes.
Good afternoon, Mrs.
Good afternoon.
I would like to ask you, since you seem practically perfect as Mary Poppins, I would like to ask you, not as an artist, but as a human being, if you can share with us something that you are good at, or maybe something that you are less good at, just to
Less good at?
all.
Oh, I can't cook at all. I'm very bad. I am the queen of breakfasts. I make a lot of breakfasts for my children. I have 5 children, and I have 10 grandchildren, can you believe? But I can't really cook at all. Example, one of my daughters said to me, "Mummy, you never made us brownies. You never cooked cookies for us." I said, "You will have cookies." I looked at the recipe, and I thought, this must be easy. I didn't have, what is bicarbonate of soda? Baking soda.
Baking soda.
I only had bicarbonate of soda. I thought that must be baking soda. So I put in, I couldn't even break the cookie when I finished. I apologized, but she got the idea anyway. But what do I do so bad? Darling, what do I do so bad? I do swear a lot. Yes, I have a, well, Mr. Disney found that out quite quickly. Yes. And what you signal who should be
No,
next.
no, okay.
Sorry, I come there.
Yeah, right there.
Yes.
Buonasera, Giulia. Vorrei che lei ci raccontasse qualche segreto del dietro le quinte del sipario strappato, della sua esperienza con Alfred Hitchcock.
He'd like you to tell some of the backstage stories on the Hitchcock film Turn Curtain.
Oh, I can remember quite a number, but the very first scene in the Hitchcock film was in bed with Paul Newman, not bad. But Hitchcock wanted to say that we were on a boat, we were in a bunk bed, and that it was freezing outside. We were somewhere up in Russia or something like that, and it very, very, very cold. So he put on top of the bed 10 blankets and eiderdowns and everything, because he wanted to see that outside was freezing and inside it was very warm and cozy. But it was so hot. 10 blankets, 10 eiderdowns and lights, and you soon begin to just. Paul and I got so hot. It was not possible to dream up much passion for this. But eventually, and this is crazy, this is filmmaking, the camera is here, but the other end of the bed, they lifted the blankets and put a fan there to warm cool our feet and make us feel a little less hot. It was crazy. That's filmmaking, people.
Is it true that Hitchcock taught you about lenses?
Yes. He was talking to his cameraman one day, and he said, you should not use that lens on this woman. And I said, I know very little about camera lenses. He said, you should know everything as a woman when you're making movies. Come with me. And he took me to a table, and on this he made drawing after drawing. Don't use this lens because it makes your nose go very long in close-up, and this is the best lens for you at such and such. I wish I had remembered it more, but I still really appreciated what he was teaching me, because it was important to know a little bit about what eventually, as you mature in your work, what to expect. He loved art. He loved his wines too, but he loved art, and he would say to me, come, look, I made a Mondrian. And I did know a Mondrian, thank God, and I went and looked in the camera, and he had made a Mondrian in the background, 2 heads here. It was very interesting. And the thing that I learned was, which everybody knows about Hitchcock, is that he loved more than anything, to change your feelings. He wanted you to get so frightened and then in a second to laugh or to change in some way, to be so scared and then suddenly to break that panic with laughter or something similar. And it was very interesting. He liked to manipulate audiences, I think.
Very
he was
much.
very kind to me, very kind.
Somebody here?
Yes.
Hi, Julie. Stephen Schaefer, Boston Herald. Great that you're here.
Hello, Stephen.
Great.
Yeah.
Congratulations with the Golden
Thank you.
Lion for Lifetime Achievement.
Thank you.
You just mentioned, you know, you had these 3 films. One is Paddy Chayefsky, 2 of the greatest musicals Hollywood's ever made, and then you went on with your career. How much were you in charge of what happened after those 3 movies, and how did you deal with failure? Because not everything can be a
Well,
hit.
you cannot expect, even I realized, it's like anything, like Broadway or radio or anything, you cannot expect that you can bat 1,000 every time. You could not, and it would be ridiculous if you did. But also in those days, I was still learning, even with 3 films. I knew a little bit, but I still didn't, it was coming so quickly. And a lot of the time, I took the advice of my very good agent at the time. He insisted that I make a film called Hawaii. And I thought, how do I know how to do that? But I accepted it because he said, this was good for you, good for your career. And many things came my way this way. Scripts did not just flood across my desk and I could pick and choose, not at all. I tried to be careful, but mostly I listened to advice. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Come back.
Buonasera signora Andrews, le volevo chiedere, il prossimo anno sarà il 100° di Federico Fellini e volevo sapere un po' di più del suo incontro quando le conferì l'Oscar. Grazie.
It's next year is going to be Federico Fellini's centennial, and he's wondering about your meeting him when you bestow him with the Academy Award.
Yeah, the thing I remember most was he was very charming, and what an honor to give him the Oscar. And also, when I received my Oscar, he sent me the most wonderful letter. And Sophia Loren also sent me a wonderful letter. I didn't really know either of them that well, but it meant so much to receive this accolade from somebody as famous as he was, and she was. I was very impressed, really. And this lady here.
Okay, here.
Yeah.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
I'm sorry for my English.
So am I for my Italian, believe me.
So, I'm writing my degree dissertation on Victor Victoria,
Are you?
which is one of my favorite movies.
Bravo.
Thank you. Okay. And I'm studying the literary connections and references there are in the movie.
Yes.
And I start from an ancient Greek myth of Theresia, which was a prophet forced to become a woman every 7 years. So the most important things that Theresia says...
Which prophet?
Theresia.
Okay.
The most important things that Theresia says is became a woman is not difficult. It's difficult to enter in the mind of the woman because it's very complicated.
It is.
And it's a jewel made of different stones.
Yes.
So in Victor Victoria, you change and you become a man.
Yes.
So it was difficult to enter in a man's mind, or it's easy. What's his like?
No, it was difficult because, well, I really didn't know. I'd never been a man before. And so I watched a lot, as I said, but also there was one wonderful day. The best example, I mean, I don't know how I got into the mind. As I say, I listened, and Blake helped, and stillness helped for the time being. And I had the advantage of knowing that the audience in the movie believed, so that the audience in the cinema would believe that I was a man. But there was one wonderful day, which I write about in the book, when I was dressed as a man with my hair very tightly pushed back, and I was ready to film. And I could see all the guys standing over in the corner chatting with the cameraman and James Garner and Preston and everybody else. And I wandered over and just stood and listened. And they never, normally they would turn and say, Julie, come in. They took me as a man that day, and I was so pleased. It was a wonderful moment because they didn't even think about it. And I thought, well, maybe I get it, now I've got it a little bit right, you know? Yes.
It's right here.
Come there in a minute, yeah.
Good evening, Julie.
Hello.
I was wondering if before Disney came into your dressing room and told you about Mary Poppins, if you had ever, I don't know, if you had ever thought of working in Hollywood with cinema, or you wanted to go on with theater since you are a great musical theater performer. And
that's hard to answer. I can't remember if I knew. I was making Camelot when Disney saw me. I can't remember if I knew that My Fair Lady was already going to be a movie. I probably hoped or wished, maybe wished, but I never really thought about it. My whole life I have been racing to catch up. Things came so quickly and so wonderfully, and I tell everybody that is new, coming and asking for advice, it can happen so fast and so quickly. Do your homework, be ready, because you never know when you are going to get so lucky, and I am and I was lucky. But I think I was just doing what was in front of my face all the time, and Broadway was huge for me, and then suddenly along came Disney, and I was not unhappy about it, I can tell you that.
Up there?
Yes. Who, where?
Hello, Helen Barlow, Australian journalist.
Hello.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I think we spoke for Victor Victoria, actually, way back when.
Yes.
I'm just wondering how you look remarkable. What is the secret?
Oh, thank you. A very, very lovely makeup man and hairdresser over here. Yeah. No.
But how are you living your life now that you're so alert and not that you're old?
Thank you. I'm stunned that I can even talk at my age, and I'm stunned that I am this age. But I love meeting people. I love life, and I feel so lucky all the time. And I'm curious, and I mean, just to keep up with life the way it's happening at the moment is quite a lot to keep abreast of the times. There's so much happening in the world, and I just hope that we all, you know what's special? You cannot help but notice in Venice how happy everybody is. I mean, they work hard, but they know something about how to live. And I've said maybe 3 times since I have been here, why can't the rest of the world follow the Venetians, who seem to really know something about how to enjoy life? They're laughing, they're happy, singing. Yes, they work hard, but here have you noticed that?
Well, Italy is a way of just...
Well, maybe it's everywhere. Maybe, yeah. I mean, I've been to Rome and I saw that also, but really here, it's so special. I would like the world to be like that now.
It's a privileged place in a way, because it's so magic. And,
it is.
And you just feel,
Yeah, oh, it's wonderful, yeah.
Yes, right here.
Sì, ok.
Go.
Buonasera Julie.
Hello.
Faccio questa domanda in italiano perché sono troppo emozionata.
That's okay.
Per prima cosa volevo dirti, perché se no non me lo perdonerei mai, che sei stata e sei una ispirazione per tantissimi di noi, e ti volevo fare questa domanda. Nel tuo discorso, quando hai ricevuto il Leone d'Oro, hai fatto un riferimento anche ai giovani attori, le giovani attrici, ed è una cosa che ho apprezzato tantissimo. Io sono una piccola cantautrice e volevo chiederti che suggerimenti ti senti di dare a chi oggi vuole intraprendere un percorso come quello artistico. È vero che il lavoro è sempre tanto, i tempi un po' sono cambiati, ma qual è la chiave secondo te?
I think I got it, but can you?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
She apologized. She's too emotional to speak in English.
That's
try
okay,
English. But she was very appreciative of your thank you speech with the Lion, because you mentioned young artists, and she is a beginner songwriter. And very small, she says, and so she's wondering what kind of advice you would give to someone like her that is just at the beginning.
Well, there are so many wonderful songwriters from whom it depends what kind of song. Are you musicals or popular? Study everybody, study and study. And for me, when I am singing, the most important things are the words, are the lyrics. If a song does not have something strong to say, it's very hard to sing. And there are some songs I cannot sing. I'm not very good at singing. I could sing it, but I'm not very good at it. Like feelings, feelings, oh, whoa, whoa, feelings. What do you do with that, But somebody like Sondheim, Stephen Sondheim, or any of the popular writers of today, study all of them, because everybody learns something from the past. That's the best advice I could possibly give, I think. Yeah.
Would you say that singing is still your biggest love?
Singing?
Yeah.
Well,
music,
I don't sing anymore because I had an operation which took my voice away. But I try all the time to find a way to bring music into whatever I do. Like with my books, with my daughter, we package those books with music if we can. I write in a way with music in my head too. I write musically, I guess, because I hear it. What is the opening of a book? Is it pastoral? Is it fanfare? Is it... So I always think in terms of music and a little bit cinema. What is the big screen? What am I looking at when I'm writing? But I do miss singing so much, especially with a big orchestra. That is a joy that is almost as good as anything else. It is phenomenal to sing. My singing teacher, and I had a very, very good singing teacher, she used to say to me, wait, when you are singing with a big orchestra, I mean a symphony orchestra, it is like being lifted up in the most comfortable armchair and being carried over the head of all that music. And she was absolutely right. You have to try harder. You have to try to be as good as all those musicians. And it is such a joy, really.
I think we're... Boy. I think there's one right there.
I think there's some people over here that wanted to ask also. Yeah?
Yep, right there.
Sorry, you wanted to say something? Yeah?
No, she just showed me the time we are running.
Oh, are we running late?
Yeah, but no, not late, but she's just reminding me.
You have other people here today, yeah.
Hi, Julie. You spoke previously about disappointment that you had in your career.
Did I?
You mentioned...
I always thought I was so lucky. Yeah, but go on.
No, you said the sort of disappointment that came with My Fair Lady and everything.
Oh, well, yes, but it's hard to be disappointed when you have Poppins, but there we are.
But other than that, what would you say, if there was there a disappointment that came in your career, as in someone you didn't get to work with, director, actor, or film you didn't get to make?
Well, not so much disappointment, because even if the film is not successful, you are still learning. And nobody makes a film hoping it's going to be unsuccessful. You always hope it will be a success because you want it to be and you do your best. But it cannot always be successful, and fashions change so much. So just keep trying is the best thing to do, I think. And if you're lucky, you will be asked to do another one. Sometimes one failure, that's the end of it these days, but I think just keep trying. It's the best you can do. And I think I will always find something that I love to do or that I'm passionate about. So I may be sad that the project was not successful, but I can, and I think I have the ability, because I've been working since I was a child, a real child. I think I have the ability to move on and put it behind me.
There was someone here with a mic.
Hi, congratulations on this award.
Thank you.
There's few people with such an amazing career as yours. I wanted to ask you, what is one thing that you don't like about Hollywood? If you could wave a magic wand, what would you change about the industry, maybe when you were working, and then what's one thing you would change now? Thank you.
In the, when I was a little bit younger, it was called an industry, film business. And my husband always used to say, why do they call it that? It is an artistic endeavor, and it shouldn't be called a business. But it always was. And it takes so long to learn to have control as a director, as an artist, and so on. I think there's one more important thing, though, that I would think, not just Hollywood, but everyone. I'll never forget, once I was in some kind of parade, and a woman was holding her tiny, tiny baby up like this and shaking it to say, look, look, there she is, there's Julie. Recognize this. The child could not begin to do that. And that makes me very, very, it's the only thing that really makes me angry is lack of thought or ignorance about consideration for other people. That I find in any form is probably the thing that makes me the most disappointed and angry, yeah.
What do you... You still engage with Hollywood today. You work. What is a script? What's a script brings to you, and what do you look into?
I'm still nervous. I never stop thinking, I don't know if I can do this, and I wonder if I can. More these days, I'm beginning to start directing projects, and I think the lady from Australia probably remembers that I was over there not too long ago doing My Fair Lady, and having such a wonderful time doing it, directing it. So I love to direct, I love to write with my daughter, and to think of projects, to produce. I do a lot of voiceover these days and love that, because I don't have to have hair and makeup for that. So there's plenty still to do, and I do enjoy it.
Right there. We have time for a couple more. So
somebody way in the
right
back.
there. Yeah,
there she is.
Right there.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Congratulations. I come from Lebanon, and I saw your Mary Poppins when I was very little.
I was very little also.
So I want to ask you, there was another Mary Poppins now. Do you think the magic of Mary Poppins could act in a world like ours now?
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? I wish. Well, who's to say that it can't? What do you think? It could be possible. It could not be possible. I'd like to be optimistic. I always see the glass half full, I think, rather than half empty. There must be eventually something that there's always a pendulum going, and I think we are one way, and soon, hopefully, we will be another. I hope.
We'll take one more on this side,
yeah.
Right there, the gentleman with a beard.
Yes, I'm running out of good things to say. Yeah. Yes, who is it? This one?
Yeah, right there.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Ms. Andrews.
Good afternoon.
And on behalf of all the homosexuals, I would like to thank you for Victoria.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really
that was my husband's idea, to change the theme, because the movie was based on an old German movie, and he was the one that brought that theme to the film, and it's all about love.
I really think that that movie and La Cage aux Folles made the
Good.
difference.
Thank you.
And another question. We know that you couldn't do My Fair Lady, but my question is why you didn't choose to do Camelot, the movie version?
I was asked. I had already done Poppins, and I think I knew somewhere inside, I'm not sure, but I think I knew that I would be so watched. If I didn't do My Fair Lady, then what is she really like? As they watched me do Camelot. And it felt a little too over theatrical, over busy. It was a wonderful musical to do on Broadway, wonderful. But I didn't quite see it in my head or in my heart. And so I passed because I did have other wonderful opportunities coming my way. It would have been nice, but there you are. Thank you.
And I think we are running out of time, and
we have to stop for
we
somebody
have to stop
else.
at some point. Yeah. Well, thank you, Julie. This has been wonderful to have you.
Good questions. Very good questions. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, look. For my grandchildren, my baby grandchildren.
Throw it to me.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Look at that. Very happy.